Objectives to analyze Rizal's idea on how to rewrite Philippine history. Compare and contrast Rizal's and Morgan's different view about the Filipinas and Philippine culture. Annotation. A note of explanation or comment added to a text or diagram. Las Islas Filipinas. The, the meaning, the Philippine island was named in honor of King Philip II of Spain. Successos means the work of honest observer. One of the important works of the Philippines about the colonization of Spain, published by Antonio de Morga in Mexico in 1609, explained the political, social, and economical aspect of colonization and the colonized country. The book is based on the experience and observation of Antonio de Morga.
Antonio de Morga, Spanish lawyer and a government official during the 17th century, historical anthropologist, author of Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, wrote the first lay formal history of the Philippines conquest by Spain. He is a doctorate in canon and civil law. Purpose of Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. Morga, 1609, wrote that the purpose for writing Sucesos was he could chronicle the deeds achieved by our Spaniards, the discovery, conquest, and conversion of the Filipinas Islands, as well as the various fortunes that they have from time to time in the great kingdoms and among the pagan peoples surrounding the island. What, why, how? What led Jose Rizal to Morga's work? Rizal was an earnest seeker of truth, and this marked him as historian. He had a burning desire to know exactly the condition of the Philippines when the Spaniards came ashore to the islands. His theory was the country was economically self-efficient and prosperous, entertained the idea that it had a lively and vigorous community. He believed the conquest of the Spaniards contributed in part of the decline of the Philippines' rich traditions and culture. He then decided to undertake the annotation of Antonio de Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. His personal friendship with Ferdinand Blumentritt provided the inspiration for doing a new edition of Morga's Sucesos, devoting 4 months research and writing and almost a year to get his manuscript published in Paris in January 1890. Why Jose Rizal chose Morga's work? Rizal felt Morga to be more objective than the religious writers whose accounts included many miracle stories. Morga, compared to religious chronicles, was more sympathetic to the Indios. And finally, Morga was not only an eyewitness but a major actor in the events he narrates.
Why Rizal chose Morga's work? Rizal's second consideration for the choice of Morga was it was the only civil as opposed to religious or ecclesiastical history of the Philippines written during the colonial period. And the third consideration for the choice of Morga was Rizal's only opinion. This secular account was more objective, more trustworthy than those written by the religious missionaries, which were liberally sprinkled with the tales of miracles and apparitions. The fourth consideration in Rizal's choice of the Morga was that it appeared more sympathetic, at least in part, to the Indians, in contrast to the prior account, many of which were biased or downright racist in tone and interpretation. The fifth and last consideration was that Morga was an eyewitness and therefore a primary source on the Philippines and its people at the point of the first contact with Spain. How did Rizal know about Morga's work? Rizal found the book while he was in London at the British Museum reading room. He hand-copied the whole 351 pages of the book and annotated every chapter of it. It was the first historical work on the Philippines by a Filipino. It is the first history written from the point of view of the colonized, not colonizer. Rizal's annotation. First, straightforward historical annotations wherein Rizal amplify or correct the original. Second, the annotation which the historical base reflect his strong anti-clerical bias. Rizal purpose of annotation Morga's works to awaken the conscience of Filipinos regarding the glorious way of the past, to correct what had been distorted about the Philippines due to Spanish conquest, to prove that the Filipinos are civilized, advanced, even before the coming of the Spanish.
Rizal's annotation. The people of the Philippines had a culture on their own before the coming of the Spaniards. The people of the pre-Hispanic Philippines is advanced, has high literacy rate, self-sufficient, and has smooth foreign relations. Filipinos were decimated, demoralized, exploited, and ruined by the Spanish colonization. The present state of the Philippines was not necessarily superior to its past. In his annotation, he included the colonial history of the Philippines being in prolonged periods of suffering that many people have been subjected to. The Philippines was depopulated, impoverished, and retorted as taunted by metaphor, with no confidence in their past, still without faith in her present, and without faltering hope in the future. Ferdinand Blumentritt's prologue to Successus de las Islas Filipinas. He wrote it in Spanish even though German is his native language. Encouraged Rizal to write about the Philippines' pre-colonial history. He praised Rizal's work as scholarly and well thought out, noted that the book is so rare that very few libraries has it and guarded it like a treasure. Blumentritt criticized Rizal's explanation on two accounts. He noticed that Rizal had committed the mistakes of many modern historians who judge events in the past. He said that Rizal shouldn't condemn Catholicism even though they didn't do any effort to suppress calls for reform. He should just give the critique about religious orders in the Philippines. The successes as annotated by Rizal appeared for the first time in the Philippines 68 years later when a publisher in Manila published the new work in 1958 to contribute his bit to the national effort to honor Rizal. The present work is the sixth volume of the series of writings of Jose Rizal, which the Jose Rizal National Centennial Commission has now published in commemoration of his birth. To foretell the destiny of a nation, it is necessary to open the books that tell of her past by Jose Rizal.